halten mit nervös, man geht gesagt, oder
Nein.
Ja, zu teuer da.
Sie da nur zusammen.
Ayam, man geht rein an Ayam.
Hier ist.
Talk English, sure. This is a Torah Samach Beis, and this is one of about 5% of the Torahs in the LIKUTEY that are Loshen Rabbeinu Zal, meaning that Rav Zal got Rabbeinu Zal's notes and copied over his notes, word for word, exactly how he had written it. And usually, when it's Rabbeinu Zal's notes, the wording is much tighter, and it's like Torah Shebechsav. Rav Zal, when he writes, usually explains and elaborates much more, especially in LIKUTEY halachas. You see, the first halachas, when he was first starting to write, he also wrote very, very short clip. The later halachas, he explains, he elaborates, it flows incredibly. It's much, much easier usually to understand and to follow. Loshen Rabbeinu Zal, Vayaser el Nasan. Da means a mivrak from the Olam Atzilus. Shalidei achilosum shel Yisrael nase yichud kutshaburichu shchinte apen beapen. That when Yidden eat, this brings about an incredible high-level union, lamala, a yichud between Hashem and the Shekhinah, face to face. And he's going to be speaking about this a lot in this Torah, because what do you mean face to face? First of all, there's no face by Hashem. And what do you mean face to face? Is there back to back? And the answer is yes. The Zohar Kodesh, the Arizal speak a lot about this, that just like when Adam and Chava were created, one of the opinions is that they were created back to back, like this. And that's why Hashem had to put Adam Arishon to sleep, in order to slice them apart, in order that they should be able to turn around and make a yichud ponim b'ponim. A husband and wife can't have children unless they're face to face. So the question is, why start out like that? Why start out back to back? So those who study self-defense, those who study karate and things like that, they learn about this. They learn that if you're in a situation where you're two people and you're surrounded by 20 people, what do? How can two fight? Even if the two are much stronger than the 20, how in the world do you stand a chance against them? So they teach you that you have to stand back to back. Why? Because nobody has eyes in the back of their head. Nobody can see if somebody's behind you. No matter how strong you are, somebody's behind you, it gives you a zetz over the head, you're finished. So what you want to do is you want to eliminate the back. You want to make it that there is no back. How do you do that? When two people are standing like this and they're turning around the whole time, there's no back. They're both are facing, there's no possibility of anybody attacking from behind. The Zohar, the Sifrei Kabbalah say that Kaviochel Hashem, when there's klipos, when the Sitra Achra is strong, and the Shekhinah is not so strong, because we're not doing mitzvahs and ma'asim Torah in the way we're supposed to, which would give the Shekhinah strength. What do you mean? We give strength to Hashem? The answer is supposed. Tnu oiz lelikim. Tnu oiz lelikim. That Kaviochel Hashem lets us be the ones to be mechazik or chas v'shalom to be machlish, that kind of thing. So when there's that kind of a situation, that the koyach of tumah, the negative koyachas are strong and the koyachas of kiddush are weak, then Kaviochel Hashem and the Shekhinah have to go into this position of back to back, because the klipos, the forces of tumah, cannot receive from the face. The light of the face, the oil is so powerful that the tumah can't attack there, it can't do damage. Just like lahavdil, again, an enemy from behind is much easier to attack. So therefore, Kaviochel Hashem has to make it that there should be no back, that there's no back that's unprotected. So Kaviochel Hashem and the Shekhinah go into this position called Ocher Ba'ocher. And then when we do tshuva, when we're misaken, we have to be misaken, then things are able to turn around. There's able to be this yichud of panim b'panim, which produces. When it's a state of Ocher Ba'ocher, it can't produce. Just like a husband and wife, Ocher Ba'ocher can't produce. Kaviochel, when the Shekhinah, when there's this yichud of panim b'panim, apen b'apen, then it can produce. B'bchinas, vayomer Boaz l'Rus, le'es ha'oichel. Boaz said to Rus, at the time of eating, goishi haloin, come close, come close. Boaz is the tzaddik. Boaz is kavio Boaz, and Az is Gibor HaKodesh Yitzroi. Boaz is the Vav of Yud Kei Vav Kei. Rus is the Malchus. David HaMelech comes from her. So the union of Boaz and Rus is the union of Vav and Kei. That's the yichud of Kutche Barichu and the Shechina. So Boaz said to Rus, Le'eis ha'oichel goish Elohim, come close. That's when there's an opportunity for a hiskarvus between Hashem and the Shechina. Hainu al yidei ha'achila goishi haloim do yichud Kutche Barichu Shechintei. Bechinas, as we find also by Yosef HaTzadik and Yehuda. Yosef is the Vav. Yosef is Bigematria, Vav Palmim Yud Kei Vav. 6 times Yud Kei Vav Kei is Yosef. Yosef is the Yesod. Yehuda is Malchus. The Malchus, David HaMelech, comes from Yehuda, right? So Vayigash Elav Yehuda, the Zohar Kodesh says, Do Tikrufta Malka B'Malka. This is an example of one Melech and another Melech meeting, Yosef and Yehuda. Moshiach ben Yosef, Moshiach ben David. Yosef is also called a Melech. Zeranpin is also called a Melech. And the Shechina is called Malchus. So these two coming together. And it says over there, where was this? By the table. Yosef HaTzadik had invited them to come and eat by him. That's when this whole meeting between Yosef and Yehuda took place. Rak hu achila tzorech liyos meichel achar shenizbarer ve'en bo shum taruvois. However, we're talking about a kind of eating which is achila b'kedusha, where there's no tumah, there's no klipos, there's no junk mixed in it. Ki meichel sheyesh bo taruvois, aydei meichel kozeh yuchal odom lachtoi. Because if the food has other things mixed in it, chas v'shalom, you have tray food, or you have meichel sheno izbar, food that's not prepared for human beings. Reb Nasan writes a lot about lechem. That bread we see, which is the most choshev meichel, has to go through 10 different procedures. From when you plant a seed and you get wheat, kernels of wheat or barley, an animal can eat that. A human being can't eat that. It has to go through 10 different procedures before it's ready to be considered meichel odom. So it's only when it's meichel odom, it's only when the meichel is completely mesukon, that kind of meichel can bring about this incredible yichud. Rabbeinu Zal talks about achila Shabbos and achila during the week. That eating during the week requires tremendous birurim. On Shabbos, we're told when we say kegavna, Friday night, v'chol dinin misabrino, that all the ra runs away on Shabbos. When Shabbos comes in, all the ra, the sifrach runs away, which means that the Achila Shabbos is Kulei Kodesh. All the negativity that could normally be found in Achila during the week, on Shabbos it's not there at all. In the Torah, the Rebbe is going to talk about tainus. He's going to talk about the incredible benefits that when things are not perfect, you have to fast. And he's going to talk about Achila D'Kedusha. In another Torah, the Rebbe also speaks about this, that in order to destroy enemies, you need tainus. There's a pasuk, V'chatoisi miponov tzorov. Hashem says, I'll slice away your enemies from before you. And how? Through tzoim. The first letters of the Chatoisim Yipanav Tzorah, it's tzoim. And the Rebbe writes there, but Achila Shabbos can do that and even better. There's a pasuk, Lahashbis oyev u'misnakein. Lahashbis means to destroy the enemy completely. How? Through Shabbos, Achila Shabbos. Because again, that's when the macholim are completely pure. Va'bira shel macholim hu alidei emuna. What does this bira macholim? Emuna. What is emuna? An example of emuna is Shabbos. What's another example of emuna? Shabbos is a time for emuna. Where's the place for emuna? Eretz Yisrael. Shchon Eretz Urei emuna. The food, the achila, the oichel, the macholim of Eretz Yisrael are on a completely different level in terms of emuna. The hashgach tamidei nation lekechabo, the hashgach proti in Eretz Yisrael. Now the Rebbe goes into an explanation regarding 2 types of questions. Questions that a person is supposed to be able to answer, and questions that a person has to know cannot be answered now in this world. The pasuk says, when Mashiach will come, ki mola ha'aretz de'es Hashem, then there's going to be a completely different level of das. Then those questions will be answered. כי הוא אמס, מה שהגדל השם יסבורך לשכל אנושי שיוכל להבין, הוא מצווה גדולה לחדד השכל. The Rebbe uses these words, mitzvah gedola, that it's a tremendous mitzvah for a person to sharpen his mind, to advance. Start off learning oisios, then words, then chumash, then Rashi, then Mishnayos, then Gemara, to go from level to level, to go sharper, to sharpen the seichel, to get clearer and clearer, higher and higher levels. Lahovin hadover al buryoi, to be able to understand something clear. When do you understand it clear? The Chidozal writes on the pasuk al tiyu kisus kefered ein hovin, that those people who are only learning pshat and remez and drush, he says that's kefered ein hovin. That's not yet having a real havana in Torah. The real havana in Torah comes when a person is zoche to learn pshat, remez, drush, and then add the soy to it. That's the real havana in Torah. That there's an union of knowing how to answer questions, certain questions about Hashem, about Yiddishkeit. Because there's two different categories of kashas. There are those questions that a person can understand the answer. ויש קושיה שאינוי באפשרי לשכל האנושי להבין תרץ על קושיה כזו. And there are questions which human mind today cannot possibly answer. רק לא עושה לבוא יסגל התרץ. אוסר לאדם לעיין בהם. And it's also, this is chakira, sifrei chakira, philosophy, where they ask these types of questions. And yedi and bechira, those kinds of questions. וכל מי שסומך על שכלוי ומעיין בו, על זה נאמר כל בואהו לא ישובן. And a person who dares to think that he's going to, yes, be able to understand. I remember Rabbi Chaim Rosen said, Zichron Livracha said, that the Rambam writes in the introduction to his Sefer Mem Nun, that this Sefer is not for everybody. 1 in 1,000 people will be able to understand it and appreciate it. So Reb Nasan said about it, he said the 999 we've seen, the one we haven't seen yet. The 999 who will not understand, and it'll be mechazik, it'll put sfekus into their mind and everything like that, that we've seen. The one person who this sefer will improve his emun in Hashem, it'll bring, we haven't seen it. So he says, Kol mi shesoymech al sichloi umayin bo, al ze nemar kol bo'eho lo yeshuvon v'lo yasigu orches chaim, the pasuk says. So one of the Hasidic Sforim writes that the first letters of Kol Bo'eho Lo Yeshuvin spells the word Bichel, Abichel. That's what they used to call these. There's the Torah, there's Sifrei Torah, and there's Bichlech, these other books that Sforim Chitzonim Chas V'Shalom. Ki al kushya kazu osur lismoich al sichlo. It's forbidden for a person to try to use his intellect to understand it. Rak lahamid al emuna. Person has to change the channel, that for this it's only emuna. Ich gloib. If the Torah says that there's such a thing called bechira, then I believe that there is such a thing called bechira. That I definitely re'ei anoichi noisan l'fnech ma'yoim bracho klolo esachayim esatoiv v'bocharto b'chaim. I believe be'emuna shleima that there's bechira. Hashem knows exactly what I'm going to do before. Not interested. The Rebbe says that that's something that we cannot understand right now. I'm not interested in looking. I don't want to hear any answers. I don't want to hear any explanations, because it'll just confuse things more. The Rebbe said, let somebody give me an explanation of Yiddish. Let somebody sell me an answer. He said, all the answers that are given on this are you can shlug it up. A person who has some real seichel can be mevatled. Vafilu ela kushya sheyesh aleim tshuva. And even those questions which we can answer nowadays, there are times that the paths of seichel are closed, and the person doesn't have an answer. The Gemara gives examples of certain cases where somebody was asked a question, and that moment he didn't have the answer afterwards. He said, well, of course I know the answer to that. It's a pashut thing. There's a a question, a doubt that goes into his mind, and he doesn't know how to resolve it. And this applies to every single person on his level. That there are times that a question comes into a person's mind, and that moment he doesn't have the answer, he doesn't understand, and a minute later, an hour later, of course I know that I knew the answer to that. How come? Why before didn't I have the answer? No idea.
Die weiß in welche Kasse weg, hè?
Was?
Die weiß in welche Drei-Kasse weg, hè?
Welchem make your fragment? The answer is by learning Gemara, by learning Rishonim, Achroinim, by learning the Sforim that it's a mitzvah to learn. All the kashas that are there, we know those kashas a person is allowed to go into. And the kashas that are presented in Sforim that we're not supposed to learn, those are the kashas a person...
Jetzt noch eens in die kleine alle deze voeren, dus tracht der Kasse und dafür ist das Maimon ja, das Maimon nicht.
The answer is the Gemara in Chagig says, Malifnim alocha are certain things to ask. What happened before the Bria? Different questions like that. To only learn it from the Koiros of Kedusha, the Kisvei Arizal places, and not to go into those Sforim that are based on Chakiras, those kind of things. Exactly. Exactly. That's another example. Exactly.
The second, the tradition, Million, Amu weiß mir nicht, ist Maimon fragen, oder ist...
Yeah, he's saying there it's not. It's in the tchum of questions you're allowed to ask, and people know the answers. But sometimes, plitzing, a person asks a question, he doesn't have the answer. Sometimes a person will go to a rov, will ask him a question, and then the rov will come. The Gemara says that he asked him a question, and he didn't have the answer. And the next day he gave him the answer. He said, "What? How? What's up? This yesterday you didn't know? I didn't eat bisra de Torah. I didn't eat an achila. I didn't eat meat." So therefore my mind wasn't thinking clearly enough. Now I had this with the Torah, I was able to answer the question, right? The Zohar Kodesh says that the Gemara speaks about pashachris, eating pashachris in the morning, that it's a shmira from 83 sicknesses. And the Zohar Kodesh says that the word chita is bigematria chof beis, that in order to unlock the 22 letters of the Torah, you need wheat, you need bread, you need pashachris. So I'm saying these are examples of a type of achila that gives a person, that opens up the moach. And then we know that when Yael killed Sisera, she gave him warm wine and cheese and warm milk, and those are things that the Rebbe writes in Torah Samach, that put a person to sleep, that shut down the brain, that weaken the mind. Ches Tesei, 22, exactly. In the Torah, it's written Ches Tesei. Exactly. There's two levels. There's an apikoros that's kfir and Hashem, and there's an apikoros of not knowing the answer to a question. That's all. It means that erot akasha and weiß nicht der Teretz.
Kasha in the Gemara has
it's not apikoros like the word apikoros being a bad thing. He's saying that there's two kinds of questions. There's questions that we can answer now, questions that we can't. And those questions that we can answer now, wenn ich weiß noch nicht der Teretz, until I know the answer, I'm in this state of ich weiß nicht. I don't know.
Is het niet meer schwer dat zij gewoon Maimon trachten en trying ja te entfernen, maar die jetzt Maimon nicht trachten von der Kasche.
Make you, 100%.
Not zeggen dat het legaal is.
Just exactly. I was just thinking of something just a second. You just said. The Gemara says there's no pleasure in the world like heter hasfeikos. Heter sofek is bigematria amalek. That means while I'm in sofek, when ich verstehe nicht the Gemara, when something is not clear, there's an achiz of amalek, and as soon as it becomes clear, it's machias amalek. Ki tzorich la'avodas Hashem b'shnei yitzorim. She'iyah ha'yitzahora kofof la'yitzer toiv. K'maymer chachmeni zal v'yahavto b'chol levavcho b'shnei yitzorecha. Sheyeh liboy sholem im Hashem alekov. Not that there's machlokes, that the Yetzer Tov is pulling in one direction, the Yetzer Hara is pulling in the second direction. I have to be able to turn the Yetzer Hara around, that he should be mechazik, he should work together with the Yetzer Tov. Sheyeh liboy sholem im Hashem alekov, shelo yeh loy machlokes ben shnei yitzorim. Hainu shelo yeh liboy cholok olov. Bechinas cholak libam. Cholak libam means their heart was divided, split. Machlokes, going in two different directions. Ube'emes, here comes one of the extraordinary statements in LIKUTEY. In Or Avram, in the Shul Or Avram, they took these next few lines, they put it on a plaque, and they put it by the Amid where the Chazan davens. These two lines. This is, any person who's going to daven has to think about Ube'emes. Im hoyo yoidea ha'odam yedia belev sholem. If a person really was clear in their mind, there was no suffix at all. There was no room. There was no 90% and 10%. The person was 100% sure in his mind that Hashem is everywhere, from top to bottom. V'Kodesh Baruch Hu oimei b'shas hatfila. And when I am davening, anyone, whoever it is, when I'm davening, Hashem is right there listening to every word that I'm saying. V'shomei atfila, vadai hoya mispalel behislavus godol. The person would daven with tremendous hearts. Hislavus is in the heart, right? Liboy boyer, v'hoya medaktek mo'oid lechaven es dvorov. And he would be very careful to think carefully about every word that he's saying. And because the person is not sure, person is 50% sure or 90% sure that there's a Hashem and that Hashem is everywhere and that Hashem is right here, right now, and he's listening to every single word that I'm saying. Because a person doesn't know this belev sholem, b'shvil zeh einoi mislahev kol kach. That's why he doesn't get so excited. He doesn't get so passionate about tefillah. Ve'enoi medakte kol kach, and he's not so serious to say every word, that every word is a punch. Here, lahavdil, again, in self-defense, they teach you two people. One person punches someone, the person says, ouch. The other person punches someone, and he breaks bones. What's the difference? One person is concentrating, makes the fist super tight, and he's concentrating exactly the point he's going to hit, and that can destroy, mamish destroy. Another person did that, it looked almost like the same thing, and it's 1/1000th of the strength. With tefillah also, two people are davening, two people are saying the words, one person is saying it, another person is he's not looking at it as sitting, he's concentrating, he's trying his best to pull together his whole brain and his whole heart and put it in the tefillah. It's a completely different thing. V'kol echad lefi miyut sichloi v'yediyosoi kein hislahavusoi v'digdukoi. Here he's making the kesher between the seichel and the hislavus, just like in Torah Chafalef in LIKUTEY. The Rebbe writes there that lefi goydel haseichel, according to how quick the brain is moving and processing, that generates heat. Movement, in physics, movement generates heat, right? A machine, the turning it generates heat, friction. So according to how quick a person's, according to how strong a person's seichel is working, bigdusha, that's going to generate the fire, the hislavus in the heart, the fire in tefillah, the hislavus of kedusha in tefillah. V'hayediyah hi me'hayetzer toiv shebalev, v'hastoras hayediyah me'yetzer hara shebalev. The das, the kedusha, is coming from the place of toiv. The Rebbe brings gambaloi das, nefesh loy toiv. A lot of places where you should, that das and toiv go together, and hastoras hayediyah is coming from the yetzer hara shebalev. V'hastoras hayediyah hein apikursis v'kushis. Hester hayediyah, I don't know this, ich verstehe nicht, I don't understand it right now. That's coming from an apikursis in the heart. V'kushis hayetzer hara makshes liboy lipol baro. The yetzer hara wants to push me over a certain line. You can have this bigdusha, a person is learning something, a versteht nicht. It's not apikursis in a negative way. But if a person, because he doesn't understand something, starts doubting Hashem, that's when you're in trouble. The Reb Chaim Vital writes in the Hakdama to the Kisvei Arizal that the Gemara says that in order, before a person is allowed to learn Soidas HaTorah, these things, he has to fill up his Malei Kreisoi B'Shas U'Poiskim, he needs to be 40 years old, different prerequisites. Reb Chaim Vital writes that the most important prerequisite is that if a person's attitude is going to be that when I'm learning this, if there's anything I don't understand, I'm going to attribute it to a chisorin in my seichel. Not that it doesn't make sense, not that the Torah doesn't make sense or it's not right. I'm going to know that I don't understand. Ich verstehe nicht. That person, he says, is allowed to go into this limud, and this limud is going to help him. It's going to give him clarity. It's going to give him a whole different level of emunah in Hashem. And if a person doesn't have that, he can learn Shasu Poiskim, he can be 90 years old, and it's dangerous. He shouldn't go near it. Because he is going to come across things that are not logical. In Kabbalah, the Arizal warns that there are certain things that it has nothing to do with logic, why certain things fit a certain way. It's emes, it's Hashem's emes, but it doesn't always make sense according to our logic, the kind of logic that we're used to thinking.
The habits that the person doesn't come because he does it every day, so he's not going to get excited every day. It's about kasha, it's just he does it every day, so it's not any more exciting.
So then what's missing? What's missing that he should, yes, have his slavas, even though he's saying it every day, he's doing the same thing every day? The answer is emunah. That's chisor and emunah. Because emunah means uvetuvoi mechadesh b'chol yom tomid maseh bereishis. Our emunah is that it's not, today's shachris is not yesterday's shachris. And today's Netzachama is not yesterday's Netzachama. And nothing, 1 second to the next second, there are shinuyim taking place, tremendous changes taking place in the world. That's what the Arizal says a lot, and the Rav Nasan brings it a lot of times. And if a person is doing it without his slavas, because I davened shachris yesterday, I made a boy prayer yesterday, so it's no chiddush.
Does it feel from that minute?
100%. That's chisor, because again, part of emunah is chiddush ha'olam. Chiddush ha'olam from the beginning that Hashem created the world, yesh me'ayin, chiddush ha'olam of uvetuvoi mechadesh b'maseh bereishis, and that every second there's his chachas, every second there's something new.
The other things the pasuk, if the Doshim will become Rabbi Nichsefo, that speaks about even of his chachas, that with a minute, a person has his chachas.
Exactly. And here again, you see different levels of seichel. The Kisei Melech writes on the Zohar Kodesh that a person who learns these limudim, 30 minutes of this is like 30 days of learning Gemara Rashi Tosfos, which means a concentrate. It's like two people drink something. One person's drinking something, that's diluted, very diluted. Another person's drinking concentrate. 1 ounce of this is like a bottle of the other thing. Here again, in Limud HaTorah, the more a person is advancing and learning, a person's learning Gemara, a person's learning Rishonim, deeper and deeper, and then a person goes to a whole new level of Soid, that's a level of concentrate, where this limud is generating 100 watts, that limud is generating 1,000,000 watts, in terms of his slavas tikdusha. And how does a person who has this cholak libam, where the Yetzer Hara is not working together with the Yetzer Toiv, there's still this battle of Toiv Ora going on inside of him. What should a person do? You have to go to the root of the problem and fix it over there. Hainu ki ikar has hisavus machloikes hayetzer hara shoroshim in hamachloikes shebikdusha. The whole concept of Toiv Ora begins from da eitz hadas Toiv Ora. It's in the Torah Kedosha, in the machloikes of kedusha. Kishehishtal shelo min darga ledarga ad shenishtal shelamata nishava men machloikes hayetzer hara. That from the machloikes of kedusha, all the debates that we have in Mishnayos, kosher posel, tomei toher, osir mutter. From that is nishtalshu. When that comes down to this world, it takes on this form of toiv, mamish toivora. Bechinas cholak libam. Umeitel boy apikursis, sveikas chas v'sholem. Umaster mimenu shvile hasechel, asher eino yedei lahoshiv. When people ask him questions and he doesn't know the answer. Umachloikis shebigdusha, umachloikis tanoim v'amoiroim shebegemora, sheze oiser v'ze mater. Umeishtal shalusam lemato, nishavim en machloikis hayetzahara. When that, from this super high level of kedusha, of Hashem's light, comes down to this world, when it goes far down, it takes on this form of toivora, of good and bad, and fighting each other. The more a person resolves the machlokes in the Mishnayos, the kosher posel, the Talmud Torah, he learns the halacha, he's able to come to a clear resolution of a machlokes. Azai memela nizbatel machlokes hayetzahara. Then automatically that's going to bring about the downfall of the machlokes going on inside of him. The Yetzahara, the Ra, is going to have a mapola. Ki ein achizosoi ela misham. Because the Yetzahara, the achiza of the Yetzahara is when there's a lack of clarity in Torah. When I don't know the halachas, when I don't know the maskonas of all of these machloksim, that's what leaves room for the Ra to have an achiza in me. The more I learn halacha and birur hamedama, the Rebbe talks about birur hamedama, clarifying the sfeikos, eliminating the doubts, coming to resolutions, the more that's mechias amolek, that's eliminating the amolek inside of me, the sofek inside of me, the Yetzahara. Emuna is called vadai. On Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, v'choil maminim, havadai shemoi kein tehilosoi. Vadai is bigematria yud kei vav kei. That Hashem is called vadai. Sofek is bigematria amolek, the opposite of that. So here again, in the Torah itself, Hashem and the Torah are one. Hashem is vadai, the Torah is vadai. And until it becomes vadai by me, until it becomes, or havadai, the word havadai is 26. Havadai shmoi, that's the word, havadai shmoi. Until it becomes clear by me, then the Yetzahara can have an achiza by me. The more I'm zeichet to clarify, to become clearer and clearer, to resolve these machlokes in the Torah, the more this machlokes in my heart gets resolved, and the Yetzahara can't attach itself to me. Vayidei limud hapoiskim hu niskasher lahasholoim shebekdusha. When a person learns poiskim shulchan aruch, he's connecting to the peacemakers, to the shalom of kedusha. Umesakin hamachlokes shebekdusha. Va'oz nispatel ha-yetzahara shebaliboy. Va'oz yucha lavoides Hashem b'chol levavoy b'shnei yitzorim. V'niftechu lo yisharei hasechel, and then his mind opens up. She'odei lo shal, of course, he knows how to answer questions, even questions on emunah, the kind of questions that you're allowed to answer. V'chol zeh naaseh al yidei ha'achra v'hasholom. All of this is accomplished when a person learns both sides, and he understands both sides, and he understands how the place can make a decision that we follow this one, that the halacha v'hilchasa like this one. V'zeh oisiyos shalom nutrikin v'dam asher toshev lapikoires. Kalidei hashalom yoidea lohoshev alapikur sheshebaliboy. When a person is zeichet to the shalom of the Torah, he's zeichet to resolve the machlokes, the machlokes in the Torah. That gives him the ability to be able to answer the questions of emunah. All of the, because what is the Torah? Kol mitzvah sechel emunah. That's what the whole Torah really is. The whole Torah is wall to wall emunah. The more I get, and kol mitzvahs, each mitzvah. So tzitzis, tefillin, sukkah, eruvin, all of these, each thing is a piece of the emunah. The more I learn one of these things and I become clear in one of these inyanim, that's clarifying my emunah in Hashem. It's giving me a clear emunah in Hashem. V'zeh oidcha beyoysher levov belomdi mishpatei tzikecha. When do I have this yashrus halev? Not this akmimi shebelev, this machlokes in the heart. When am I zoichet to yoysher halev? Belomdi mishpatei tzikecha. And it says, B'yosher levov. Levov daika meaning b'shnei yitzorim. That this person will be zocher, that the Yetzer Hara will be nichna in his battle to the Yetzer Toiv. The Yetzer Hara will become his friend and join the Yetzer Toiv. Eimosai, kadlomdi mishpatei tzidkecha. Hainu alidei limud hapoiskim. The Rebbe brings in a place from the Arizal that you have two psukim, Hariul Hashem kol haaretz, that the entire world gives praise to Hashem. Hariul Hashem kol haaretz is Rosh Tevas halacha. That halacha is something that applies to everybody. The Rebbe said everybody has to learn halacha. That halacha is going to give you birur hamedameh. That the more halacha you learn, again, it's going to eliminate your doubts, your sfeikus about Hashem. Chas v'shalom. Avla kushya she'en aleim teretz, osru la'odom la'ayin bohem. Rak l'chazek es atzmoi be'emunah. Those questions that you're not allowed to delve into. There, to turn off the das completely and to change the channel to emunah. Emunah is in that which I don't see and I don't understand. Uk'sheyesh lo emunah b'shleimus, yuchal liyos al yidei achiloso yichud kushbrichu shchintei. And when a person is zoche to shleimus emunah, then he can be zoche through his achila to bring about this incredible yichud. B'chinas ure'ei emunah. Ure'ei emunah means to be nourished. Ure'ei means nourishment, which means food, eating. Eat emunah. Hainu b'chinas achila al yidei emunah. And the Rebbe brings later, I think he brings it in this Torah, the Zohar Kodesh says that ichlu reim ushsu mamtakim. Ichlu reim. Exactly. That reim refers to chochma and bina. Chochma and bina are called train reim deloi misparshin. That in Hashem's name Yud Kei Vav Kei, there's two parts. There's one part that's totally in us, in our mitzvahs and ma'asim tovim. When we do good things, we bring about a yichud between the vav and the hey. When we do averos, we bring about a pirud between the vav and the hey. Tshuva is called toshuv hey, to return the hey, bring it back to the vav, attach it back together. When we do averos, kaviyochel the shechina is nida. Nida is nod hey, that the hey drifts away from the vav. That second part, that lower part, is totally in us. But the yud and the hey are called train, rei, and deloi misparshin, two close friends that are inseparable. No matter what we do, they are always connected. They're connected. So here the Rebbe says that when the emunah is b'shleimus, then there's no more sfeikus. Then a person is zocher to shleimus hadas also. Just like the pasuk ve'irastichli be'emunah v'yodates Hashem, and by Reb Nasan brings by Yecheskel Anovi that when he saw Ma'aseh Merkava is like the highest hasagos that we were aware of. On Shavuos, the Haftorah is Ma'aseh Merkava, the Mar of Yecheskel Anovi. He starts off with the words Niftechu Hashamayim v'Era Maras Elikim, and Reb Nasan brings the first letters of Niftechu Hashamayim v'Era Maras Elikim is emunah. That if a person is zoche to shleimus to emunah, through that he's zoche to yediyah, to take away the haloma. It becomes, the das becomes b'shleimus.
The Rebbe doesn't explain why through emunah the macholim get mevurim. Why would that happen?
So, number one, he's bringing this pasuk ure'ei emunah. Ure'ei means to eat, pasture, mirror, pasture.
But just explain how does it happen to a munah that the machal gets mevurim, so that when you eat it, it's a machal of a munah. How does it happen?
Good question.
Is it just like a school digger thing, or it's more that when a person has a munah while he eats that the food comes from Hashem, that makes a birr in the machal?
Exactly. The whole concept of making a bracha. The Arizal says on the Baal Shem Tov, Re'evim gam tzemeim nafsham bohem tisatov. That why did Hashem make it that we're hungry and thirsty? Because there are nefashos and oisios that are found in the food, and they're not bishleimus. They need a tikkun, and when they need a tikkun, it's Michael Shem Mavura. And when a person makes a bracha on the food, he makes a bracha with kavan on the food, or he eats it as at a sudas mitzvah, or achila Shabbos, those kind of things, that makes a complete tikkun for that nefesh, for those oisiyos that are found in that food that are not b'shleimus, and brings it all to a shleimus.
Is it similar to the concept of eating matzah that's meichel behind the musa? Why is matzah meichel behind? What? I know it's a school. You eat matzah, you get a minute from that, but why? What's pshat?
Anybody have an answer? Favus is matzah meichel dem musa? A poshet answer. The Gemara brings the pasuk Zocharti lo chesed nu'urayich lechtech acharai bamidbar be'eretz le'zarua. That Hashem says, I remember the emunah that you showed in me. That I said, we're leaving Mitzrayim, going into the midbar. 1 minute, I have to prepare. I need time to prepare. No time. Run. They ran out. B'chipos ran matzah. You know, it was made bedafka quick. With complete emunah Hashem. Chesed nu'urayich. The emunah, the Gemara says.
And that made such a roshim on the matzah that even in this day we're going to make matzah. We're going to have a minute while.
100%. 100%. The same thing.
It seems here in the Torah that the Rebbe says that through a minute, the machal that you're going to eat is already going to be mevira. And what you mentioned earlier from the Baal Shem Tov, it seems that as we eat it, that's when the berach happens.
Where do you see that through the emunah it's already mevura? Where do you see? The emunah is what's mevara the machalim.
The bracha that you make.
So here again, the more emunah I put into the food, I'm eating it on Shabbos. I'm making a bracha. Making a bracha means I'm showing I believe in Hashem. Baruch Atosh, Elokeinu melech haolam, that it's Hashem's food. The Gemara says a person who eats without a bracha is stealing, because he's saying it's my food. A person who makes money and doesn't give meiser, it says pentoichal v'savoto v'rom levavecha, and you're going to say koichi v'oitzem yadi. I earned this. I made this money. My house, my company, my car. V'shachachta es Hashem lekecha. And it says, don't make that mistake, because it's all from Hashem. So all of these things are emunah. And every mitzvah in the Torah is emunah. We should be zeicher. Where do you get emunah from? From the Torah. Where do you get emunah from? From the tzaddikim. The Iker Torah. The Rebbe brings the Gemara in Makkas. How silly are those people who stand up for a Sefer Torah and they don't stand up for a Talmud Chacham. So the Gemara is showing that it's a kal v'chomer. Imagine how silly a Sefer Torah they stand up for, and they don't realize that a Talmud Chacham is much higher than the Sefer Torah. So in terms of emunah, where do we get emunah from? V'tzadik b'emunaseh yichya. The more a person gets closer to tzaddikim, the more a person learns the svarim of the tzaddikim, the more that strengthens the emunah. Should be zeicher to emunah in Hashem, in the Torah Kedosha, and emunah in ourselves, that the Eibishter is listening to my tefillah, and that my tefillah is going to make a difference. The Gemara says a person should always think that the world is mamish 50-50. And the next move that I make, if I do a mitzvah, I'm going to tip the scales for the whole world. And if chas v'shalom I do the opposite, I'm going to tip the scales for the whole world. And again, my ashrei, one word of tefillah, the Rebbe says that for a person to think that he can have kavanah for the whole tefillah is very hard. But one line you can. To say one line, Hoidul Hashem Kitov, Hoidul Hashem Kirush, Hoidul Loisav, to concept one line, and then another line, and then try to grab another line. Should be zeicher to see this yichud of Apin de Apin. It's a shame.
Amen.
Ayach.